China is telling its manufacturers, guys, Nita just decided to build factories in Mexico. BYD's building factories in Mexico, in North Africa, in Turkey, in Europe as well. They're building them in Spain, in Brazil, all over the world. Different manufacturers are doing this. In Thailand, there's various factories going up from different Chinese manufacturers of EVs. And China, the government of China is saying, we don't want this. We don't want you to share your technology with other countries. We're more advanced than the rest of the world. You need to hold on to this technology. Make sure it doesn't get into the hands of rivals. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Now, for some context here, guys, I have pre-ordered a car. I paid the deposit, so I haven't paid the full amount yet. It's the XPeng G6, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. So, I understand what China's saying. I mean, if you look at the charging speed, it is amazing. They can charge in, from what I've seen in the real world, about 19 or 20 minutes, from 10 to 80%. That's insane. I mean, that technology is incredible. The 800 volt platforms they're using, the gigacasting they're using. Yeah, Tesla does it, but China does it. In some ways, China's doing it even better. The software they're using is actually quite advanced as well. I mean, why else would the Volkswagen Group, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, they're all investing billions and billions of dollars into China, into these joint ventures. What about Stellantis with Leap Motor? They're all investing massive amounts into these joint venture partnerships with Chinese car companies. And these Chinese car companies are planning on building all these factories overseas. And the Chinese government's like, hang on a minute. We now have the technology. I don't think we want this going into your hands, because then that gives you an opportunity to catch up. Now, I'm not saying that's actually true, but that's what the Chinese government believes. And China is asking car makers to not actually manufacture all these key parts outside of China. They're saying, yes, that's fine, build a factory, but do what the Electric Viking said you were going to do. Now, guys, I did say this many times. I said these factories are not really going to be factories. They're going to be assembly plants. And that's what the Chinese government's saying as well. China is strongly advising its automakers to ensure that advanced EV technology stays at home in China, and has told them they want them to build knockdown kits for these foreign factories. So all these foreign countries, all these countries around the world, obviously a lot of Chinese car manufacturers are aiming to get around these tariffs on Chinese cars by building factories outside of China, then shipping the cars into consumers in Europe. But these factories, as I've mentioned, they're not really car factories. I mean, yeah, they are, but they're going to be assembly lines, essentially. So all the parts will be sent over as a kit. That's what China's saying. They want to encourage these manufacturers to do. Send all the parts over as a kit, and then it's like essentially an assembly plant. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still a huge part of manufacturing a car. So this doesn't mean that, I mean, that's probably more than 60% of the work. It's a huge part of the job. But it's still not really technically like, say, a Tesla Gigafactory where everything happens inside that factory. China has said that it's encouraging automakers to export knockdown kits, meaning that key components of the cars will be produced domestically in China, then shipped to destination markets for final assembly. Localization efforts through knockdown kits assembly typically include completely knocked down, which is called CKD, and SKD, which is semi-knocked down. Now, this makes it sound like you actually build the car, then knock it down, and then rebuild it in its destination country or in its destination factory. That's not actually the case. That's kind of a misnomer. And so what it actually is they send the parts, the finished products. It might even mean the structural battery pack is already completed. It's a large part. They'd send that, and then of course they do the final assembly at the location, at the destination factory. Some Chinese automakers have already adopted the strategy in international markets, such as Great Wall Motor, which in January finalized the signing of a vehicle assembly partnership with Malaysian company EP Manufacturing Berhad, based on the CKD model. So that is like a contract manufacturer or contract assembly company. And obviously Great Wall Motors sends them all the stuff and they put it together. China's Ministry of Commerce held a meeting with more than a dozen automakers in July and told them not to make any auto-related investments in India. So they've been told. And I'm not sure how the Chinese government, though, feels about BYD, because BYD have invested in India. They're actually building several factories in India. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why BYD has a lower tax rate than other Chinese manufacturers. Maybe BYD are not really getting any incentives from the Chinese government, but now they're too big for the Chinese government to really kind of take them down. They're just saying, yeah, okay, we're going to do what we want. That's kind of interesting to hear that sort of a disconnect here between BYD and the Chinese government. Automakers looking to invest in Turkey should first notify the Ministry of Industry and Information and Technology in China, which oversees China's EV sector, and the Chinese embassy in Turkey. So they've got to, really run this by the government if they want to invest in Turkey. They've been told no India, Turkey maybe. MOFCOM's guidelines require that key production should remain within China, which could hurt automakers' globalization efforts as they look for new customers to offset stiff competition and sluggish domestic sales, says the report. They noted that at the meeting that the countries inviting Chinese automakers to build plants are usually those that are enacting or considering trade barriers to Chinese cars, except for the United States. The United States is like, no, we want nothing to do with you, China, go to hell. Everywhere else is like, yeah, many other places, obviously Europe in particular, yeah, you can build factories here and sell here, but otherwise we're going to tax you pretty significantly. So that's one way to get them to build factories in Europe. But it is a bit of a Trojan horse. You're kind of creating a Trojan horse there, I think. Officials told attendees that manufacturers should not blindly follow trends or believe foreign governments' calls for investment. So they're saying foreign governments could trick them. Now, I believe they're referring to India here when they say that. There's kind of their rationale for saying don't invest in India or you're not allowed to is because it's true. The Indian government has basically seized major factories from companies. Just says, no, we want that now. Go away. That has happened. So not saying it will happen again, but it has happened. So there is a possibility. It is a risk you have to consider. And that's why I've said a number of times, I don't believe Tesla will ever build a factory in India. You never know though. I could be wrong. Chinese automakers are stepping up their efforts to build factories overseas, says CNFpost.com, as competition in the domestic market gets tougher and tougher. And if you look at it, they've done this incredibly well in some places already. Like, for example, Thailand was just Toyota. Toyota country was Thailand. Now all these Chinese manufacturers have started building factories in Thailand, targeted the Thai market, and that has completely changed. I mean, these Chinese automakers have completely disrupted the Thai auto market. They will do the same in many other countries, many other locations, but the Chinese government is still wary. They could be giving away their technology to their rivals. Now, I don't think this is really true. I think that's unlikely to actually be all that relevant. But what do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are about all this in the comments. Thanks for watching.